Moscow's big revenge has begun, Zelensky says, as Russia claims Ukraine gains. The United States to end COVID-19 emergency declarations on the 11th of May. Welcome back. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry held the press conference on Tuesday with Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Moscow. Shoukry asserted that Egypt and Russia aim to enhance bilateral relations to service the interests of people. He pointed that the size of the commercial exchange between the two sides is increasing. Concerning the Palestinian file, Shoukry confirmed the necessity of avoiding any escalation to reach a permanent and just solution to the Palestinian issue. For his part, Lavrov said that both countries agreed on a number of investment projects and discussed Russian wheat deliveries to Egypt. He highlighted the military cooperation between both countries and joint drills. Lavrov said that they discussed means of settling the Libyan crisis and the need for inter-Libyan dialogue among all parties. Lavrov said Moscow backs reconciliation between the Syrian parties. He added that they aim to reach comprehensive settlement to the Palestinian cause. He pointed out that Russia reviewed developments in Ukraine upon a request from Egypt. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry holds talks on Tuesday with the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Moscow. The talks discuss bilateral ties and international and regional files of mutual concern, including the latest developments related to the Ukrainian crisis and its repercussions. Shoukry is also to hold talks with Russia's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Industry and Trade, as well as Secretary General of National Security. The meetings touch on bilateral ties and progress achieved in joint projects. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken meets Palestinian leaders on Tuesday for his final stop on a Middle East tour aimed at curbing the worst outbreak of Israel-Palestinian violence in years. More details follow.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken meets Palestinian leaders on Tuesday for his final stop on a Middle East tour aimed at curbing the worst outbreak of Israeli-Palestinian violence in years. After a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday, Blinken urged both sides to take urgent steps to calm tensions and said Washington would work to restore a sense of security. Since the start of the year, the Israeli violence has claimed the lives of 35 Palestinian adults and children. Blinken is scheduled to hold talks with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, who last week announced that his Palestinian Authority was cutting security coordination with Israel after the deadly occupied West Bank raid. Blinken had made an initial stop in Egypt where he met President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, commending Egypt's important role in promoting stability in the region. Blinken's Israeli visit is part of the Biden administration's effort to engage quickly with Netanyahu, who had tense relations with the previous Democratic President Barack Obama. He reiterated U.S. support for a Palestinian state, a prospect few expect to advance under the new Israeli government. Netanyahu, a veteran leader, returned to power late last year at the helm of the most right-wing government in Israeli history.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken meets Palestinian leaders on Tuesday for his final stop on a Middle East tour aimed at curbing the worst outbreak of the Israeli-Palestinian violence, while Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said that Russia has begun its big revenge for Ukraine's resistance to its invasion, as Russia's forces claimed a series of incremental gains in the country's east.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Russia has begun its big revenge for Ukraine's resistance to its invasion, as Russian forces claimed a series of incremental gains in his country's east. Zelensky has been warning for weeks that Moscow aims to step up its assault on Ukraine after about 2 months of virtual stalemate along the front line that stretches across the south and east. While there was no sign of a border new offensive, the administrator of Russian-controlled parts of Ukraine's eastern Donetsk province said Russian troops had secured a foothold in Valnder, a coal mining town whose ruins have been a Ukrainian bastion since the outset of the war. He added that fighters from Russian mercenary